do you go from being a struggling agent to a top producer in just 1 year? Well, if that's something you want to do, then this video is going to give you the strategies that you need to in order to exponentially scale your production. One of the things that most agents struggle with is follow-up and lead generation. And what we're doing today is bringing on one of my business partners, Howell, that went from a struggling agent to a top producer to then a team leader, all by relentless follow-up strategies and using open houses very strategically. And he's going to break down his entire blueprint for you so that if you're a new agent, an agent that's struggling, or somebody that has just hit a plateau because of the shifting market, then the strategies in this video are going to give you the exact blueprint and path that you can follow that's proven that will take your business to the next level in this market. Now, before I bring on Danny, I want to mention two quick things. Number one, I'm going to link all of Danny's profiles below so that you can check him out. And number two, I will link his calendar if you want to talk one-on-one with him about partnering with him, getting his support. So without further ado, let's bring on Howell and give you the blueprint of how you can scale your business exponentially by being ruthless with your follow-up. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another very special video today where we've got a guest who's going to talk about something that I get asked very frequently, which is how to build a wildly successful real estate business when you're starting with nothing. A lot of agents, similar to myself and our special guest today, started with no money and are wondering how can you actually build momentum and build a thriving business doing over 20 million in volume every single year. And that's what we're going to be diving into today. So we've got on Howell, who's got an incredible story that I relate to, and he's going to be diving into very important things like how to get off the ground, follow up, and then how to explode your business with builder partnerships. So Danny, what's going on?
Hi, how you doing?
Yeah, man, excited to have you here and start to dive into, what you did as a new agent, and now you've got a team and you've built this successful real estate business. But before we start getting into the tactical, just take us back a little bit, talk to us about your journey into real estate, what led you here, and then what kind of took place in order to help you build such massive momentum. And then we'll start diving in a little bit deeper.
Okay. So I had a job in corporate America. I really didn't like it. Actually, I hated it and just didn't like to go to work every day. Excuse me. So I decided I was going to get my real estate license and start doing sales. So because I had a full-time job, I had to do nights and weekends. Me and my wife were really, really poor. I didn't make a lot of money. We had really nothing. We had 3 young kids. So we got to a point where we were basically selling everything that we had in order to just put food on the table. Another reason why I liked real estate, what attracted me to real estate, because there's really no limit or no ceiling to your income. You can make as much money as that you're willing to invest into that business. So got my real estate license, started out just doing nights and weekends. Since I didn't have any money, I used Facebook. Back then it was a little bit different. There wasn't a lot of video out there. It was mostly pictures. But I would just go out and, before I even had buyers, I just go out and look at properties and take funny pictures or things that are really, really interesting, or maybe remodels that I thought were really, really cool. I would just take pictures and say, hey, I'm out showing houses today. And I'd put those pictures out there. Hey, take a look at this. How funny is this? And it really was just, the purpose was so I could tell everybody what it was that I was doing for a living without really just asking them, hey, I'm an agent, can I sell your house? I wanted people to know what it was I was doing. So I did that really just every single day. And then once I started getting buyers, because that's usually where you start, is with buyers. While I was out showing buyers, anything that I would see, whether it was funny or weird or whatever, I would take pictures of it and just post it out there on Facebook. So because of that, people started contacting me and asking me to help them, whether find a house or sell their house. So then once I started getting a few sales under my belt, I had a little bit of money to invest in internet leads. So I started buying impressions on Zillow and subscribed to zip codes and Realtor.com and Homes.com. And then I started getting quite a bit of leads. I really didn't have any processes for that, but I knew that the fortune was in the follow-up. So I slowly started building in processes, follow-up plan, how often. I read this article, or I think it was like something from Ben Kinney about his 10 days of pain. So I kind of incorporated a little bit of that, just making sure that I was consistently following up. And because of that follow up, I was able to start getting pretty successful in sales. And then I quit my job that December in corporate America and went full time into real estate. And then it's just been exploding ever since.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And it's really funny because in the beginning I did something very similar. Like on Instagram, every time I would be out with buyers, anytime I found something quirky, weird, shocking at a property, I would show it on my Instagram stories. And it would be the most
Yeah.
engaged stories because people are like, you'd see like a bong or you'd see something weird and you'd be like, okay, like you share it with the world. And now they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is left out during a showing. And it's really interesting. So I think
Yeah.
it's, again, really important. The message and the takeaway from that is there are ways to make it very well known that you are a realtor without shoving it down people's throats in a kind of salesy, forceful way, just by
Yeah.
highlighting what you're doing on a daily basis. So I really like that. And I think, the follow-up is something that I'd love to dive a bit deeper in because, you said a quote earlier, which you can share with us, and we live by the quote, the magic is in the FU or the follow-up. Like that's where a lot of agents struggle because one of the problems that I see, especially for people that come to me and they want to learn about Facebook ads or YouTube or Google ads or whatever, their concern is I need more leads. But the problem is they're letting the ball drop on all the leads that they already have because they're not following up. So I could give them 1,000 more leads a day and they're still not going to be able to close anything because they have no systems and processes. So why don't we unpack what you did with follow-up in terms of what methods did you use, how often, what did you say, and give a bit of a blueprint of how you were actually following up with people, when, times of the day, things like that.
Yeah. So I started out just, it's all trial and error when you're trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. And it's probably going to be different for different areas of the country or different areas of the world. But I followed up every single day, and it was always a call, text, and an email, because I figured if I was doing all three and I would get a response, then you'd have a better idea of how those people like to communicate. And because it's going to be different for everybody. And back then, when I was doing that, when I was getting started, most of it was email. Today, it's really text messages are the best. But I built a pretty simple process. It was just basically follow up every single day. And but once you made contact with them, I kind of took out that follow up strategy and just made it based on whatever our conversation was or whatever the last conversation was. But just because you had that conversation doesn't mean that they're ready to do business. You could have a conversation with them and then it's still 9 months or a year down the road. So I just was making sure that I was staying consistent as far as when I was following up with them and then being creative on how. So it wasn't so robotic, it was more personal. A lot of people kind of told me that I was doing that wrong because I was putting a whole lot of effort and time into the creative follow-ups. But my conversion rate was really, really high because I made it more personal and it didn't seem robotic. Because it can, like sometimes people put these follow-up processes in place and it's just the same thing over and over and over. And you can tell when you're reading that stuff that it's robotic. I get that stuff all the time from lenders. Lenders just put you on this drip campaign, and then you'll get it from like 10 different lenders from the same company, and it's just really robotic and I don't like it. So I kind of figured other people wouldn't like it as well. So I didn't want to play that game. The creativity, it was just really just making people, it wasn't anything special. It was just going out and doing a search and then pointing out the things that were really, really cool. Because people are kind of like followers. So like if I would send them a property and say, oh man, look how cool this backyard is. Look at that fire pit, or this has got the most amazing kitchen. You got to check it out. The open rate it changed overnight from just going through hey, just following up, seeing how you're doing. How can I help you today? To actually pointing out in properties what was really, really cool. They wanted to open it and say, well, I want to see what that is. I want to see what's cool. And it got me a ton of business really, really fast. So my conversion rate went through the roof just by doing simple little things like that. And of course, it didn't work for everybody, but for the majority of the people, it did, because people, really are followers.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, there's another quote that's very near and dear to my heart, which is that there's value in the inefficiencies. A lot of people think that you need to make your business as efficient as humanly possible. But when you do that, it again takes away the personal and human element of it. And at the end of the day, real estate is all about relationships and connections.
Yeah.
That's it. And, it's why handwritten notes work so well over templated notes that get sent to every single person, or it's why pointing out these things in the property, that is an inefficient activity, but there's immense value in that because it's inefficient, because people know you took the time to do that, and it's personalized. So I think it's
Yeah.
really important to, again, that the two things that I hear from people, and I think these are the crutches to people actually thriving with follow-up, is that what if I annoy them and it's going to take too much time? And the what if I annoy them thing, I think, is a scapegoat where it's like, well, if you don't annoy them, you're going to get no business. So you might as well go to the point of annoying them, because you might actually get a point of contact.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that is like another excuse people have to not do a daily follow-up strategy or do a frequent follow-up strategy, because it's not that they don't want to annoy people. It's just that they're using that as a scapegoat to not put in the effort. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on kind of, that frequency? And did you even have like an opening approach to that in terms of like the first point of follow-up?
Really, it was just, I wanted to get in front of them as quick as possible. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on the phone or have this long text communication or email communication. The goal was to get in front of them, because if I'm in front of them, I amplify my opportunity to win them as a client. So there's nothing better than in person, face to face. You can read facial expressions, body mechanics. You can read so much, so then you can kind of develop how you need to talk to those people. Um, so really, it was pretty simple. Like somebody would send over a property request or click on the button in Zillow because they had questions about a property, it was just really just like, hey, you want to get inside to see it? I'm available at 2 o'clock today. And I never like asked them what time. I kind of told them what time, because people will always try to kick that can down the road, and I wanted to create that sense of urgency. So that was really my opening, is like, hey, let's get inside the property and take a look. This looks awesome. I'm available at 4 o'clock. And so that was what I did. And the people that would respond, they say, yeah, I want to see it. I'd get in front of them, and then it was almost automatic. They were my client. The people that didn't, I just continued to follow up with them every single day. Hey, I'm still, this property is still available. I'm available at 5 o'clock tonight. Does that work for you? Or, hey, this one already went off the market, but I just went and did a quick search and I found these two. Look how cool this backyard is in this house. Or look at this finished basement. They just give it the ultimate man cave, depending on who it was, like if it was a dude that I was talking to. So that was it. But what I was finding is that a lot of people were not responding. And I mean, it's, kind of what happens with internet leads. You just people don't respond to you. But I wasn't willing to give up. A lot of people, they'll reach out, and then at some point when they're not getting a response, they'll just say, okay, you're done. I'm going to go after the ones that are more the low hanging fruit, the ones that are actually responding to me. But there's like a gold mine in those other ones. And I kind of realized that early on, just because I was broke, and in any money that I did invest into leads, I didn't want to waste that money, because I figured if it was somebody that wasn't responding, just reach out to them forever, or follow up with them forever until they do respond. Because I mean, what else am I going to do? You had back then when you're getting started, you're not out cranking out 10 sales, a month, or 20 sales a month. You have a lot of time. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to invest my time in the follow-up, because I know eventually they're going to respond. And what was funny is I started finding out, because, buyers, you can tell them, hey, go to my website or go to my app and search. But the reality is they're going to search all of them. Even if you tell them, it's all the same information. It's a feed from, or syndication from MLS. But if you want the accurate information, go to my apps. It's direct feed to MLS through IDX feed. But you can tell them that all day long, but they're still going to go to all of the different websites, because they think they might see something that you didn't tell them about, or you don't have access to. So what I started finding out when I was talking to these people is like, been 9 months or 12 months, and they'd say, yeah, I've been getting your texts and getting your emails or getting your voicemails. Sorry, I never responded because, you know, at that time there was like 15 agents that were blowing my phone up 10 times a day because they were clicking on that information button on 3 or 4 different websites. And then they were selling all those to real estate agents, and their phones were blowing up because some agents overdo it. You know, they'll call 4 or 5, 10 times a day. And I just think it's excess. You know, you have to think these people they're just real people, you know, so you treat them that way. So anyway, I just kept responding forever, or following up forever, and eventually they would respond. But yeah, that's, I heard that a bunch. I heard it all the time, you know?
Yeah, I think that's super powerful because, like, you know, one of the things that I think people need to really understand is that when you're in the beginning of real estate and when you have no money, like, you don't have the ability to be picky. You can't have the audacity to not go all in every single day. And I think that's where a lot of agents go wrong, is they're always using these little excuses as to why they can't be doing it daily. Well, you have no other option, right? If you want to get paid, you have no other option. You can't just, you know, do what you think is fun, because at the end of the day, you know, I get asked this a lot: how did in 5 years I get to this point? And it's just because I did the things that suck relentlessly as often as possible in the beginning, so that you can earn the right to do the things that are fun for as long as you want after you've gotten over that hump. But you have to condense the things that are difficult, because that's how you build your business and get it off the ground. And I think, you know, before we switch to the builder conversation, did you have any sort of system like a CRM or something for tracking the follow-up to help you stay on top of it as well?
Yeah. So at first I didn't. I tried to use spreadsheets because in my previous job in corporate America, I worked in a spreadsheet every day.
Same.
And yeah, it was miserable. But so I started using spreadsheets because it was something that I was familiar with, and it kind of served the purpose at the time. But it started to get complicated the more people I started putting in there and the more follow-ups that I had to do. So I started researching CRMs, and the thing about CRMs is that you can't find one that does everything that you want it to do. So I found one that did pretty much everything, and it was really, really cheap. And but it was super, super easy to use. It was called Realty Juggler. I actually still use it today. So I've been using it since 2015. But it did everything that I want. But once I got it, like, people think that just because you have a CRM that everything's going to be built for you. And nowadays they're a little bit different than they were back then. When you got CRMs back then, they were just a clean slate, and then you had to go in there and build all the task plans and email campaigns and pretty much everything that you wanted to do in it. Now they come out and they're built. But, you know, you still got to go in there and kind of edit and modify, you know, the things that are going out. So it isn't robotic, and it sounds like it's coming from you and not somebody else. But yeah, I started using that CRM because I made a couple mistakes at first, and I was like, all right, I got to get a CRM. I have to invest in this because I can't make mistakes or it's going to crush my business. So I got into my CRM, and then I dedicated an hour every single day because I was really big into time blocking. So I time blocked an hour of my day every single day to go in and build systems in my CRM, put all my task plans in there for everything, and then build out email campaigns, follow-up campaigns, you know, long-term care campaigns for leads. So I just dedicated an hour every single day to do that. And I did that for an entire year until I got it built up exactly how I wanted it.
That's awesome. I think that's super important because, again, a lot of people don't take the time to build the foundation, and it's no wonder follow-up is a nightmare because you have nothing actually keeping you on track with it, and you get distracted really easy. So, you know, now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about builders, because, you know, you decided to take, after building this momentum with buyers, you took a different direction to start getting listings. And I think it's an approach that a lot of people are very curious about, and it made a pretty significant difference in the trajectory of your business. So why don't we talk about what you did in order to go from primarily a buyer's agent to working with listings and sellers?
Yeah, working with buyers. I loved working with buyers just as you get a good personal connection with these people and you just get to see their excitement. But the challenge with working with buyers is that it's very time consuming. So you can only go to a certain point working with buyers and where it fills up your day. So I really wanted to have a little bit more leverage with my day. So I wanted listings. And at the time, the market wasn't fantastic here where I'm at, Kansas City market. And listings were really tough to get because after the market crashed, limited service brokers came out and discount brokers. So there was a lot of discount brokers out there that were offering reduced commissions or flat fee commissions. So it was really kind of hard to compete for listings. And between that and we had just way too many agents in our market as well. There's a lot of competition, and I was door knocking for sale by owners to try to get listings. And I had, quite a few that way, but I wanted more. So, I was sitting here one day, I'm like, man, how can I get listings? Oh, builders have listings. So then I started compiling a list of builders, and then I put them on a plan, and it was a 30-day plan. So I would call, text, and email builders every 30 days. And I had a list. So my list got pretty big. So I broke it up into 2 different days. So one day I would call, this many builders. And then a couple of days later, I would have the next amount of builders on the list. So, but I was relentless at it. And because it was in my CRM, my follow-up was on point, because I figured, like, if you can keep your follow-up to be the same, so if somebody's hearing from you the same day, the same time, and it's the same conversation, the language is different, or the topic of that conversation is different, but if you're consistent with it, because consistency is so powerful, eventually somebody's going to respond. Well, builders, as most people probably know, that builders get contacted by agents all the time. So most of the time they ignore you. But because I was consistent and I never gave up on it, I don't know, I can't remember how long it took, something like 6 months or 7 months of doing it. A builder finally called me and said, hey, we have this neighborhood that we're building in, kind of down in your area. We want to see if you want to come in and interview for it. So I did, and I guess I did pretty good in that interview, and they ended up hiring me to manage their sales in that neighborhood. And then they actually were in transitioning from coming from just being a builder to a developer. So then that just opened up just a huge door, because that gave me access to so many builders. But it wasn't as simple as just, going in there and selling houses. I had to learn a ton. So I spent 2 hours of my day every single day just researching everything, because I figured if I was going to have this opportunity, there's going to be a ton of competition, and I didn't want to get into this neighborhood, not do as good as I could do, and then they just replace you, because everybody's replaceable in this business. So I wanted to learn as much as possible, so that way when I did get into that situation, I could outsell the competition, because I was more knowledgeable in that space.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful. And again, I think it's a testament to, those that succeed go the extra mile. And I think, again, like, even just for a lot of people thinking about a daily or monthly follow-up for 6-7 months, it's almost like that meme that you see where it's like somebody's digging for a diamond and they turn around right before they hit the diamond.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of people, if you could tell me that you could follow up for 6 months and get the potential opportunity to have mass listings at scale with a builder or developer, like, that is worth its weight in gold. Every single one of those calls is worth a listing. But you have to get to the other side and do it religiously enough in order to get there. And I think a lot of people are selling themselves short by just thinking, hey, it's been 5 months, it's just not going to work out, I'm going to stop. And that 6 month is where it turns around. So I think it's really important for people to understand that long-term play is what yielded you a ton of business that helped you, double, triple your production in 1 year, which is incredible. I think one thing a lot of people are going to be curious about is, what did you actually say in probably that first point of contact to the builders, or what did you say in that follow-up, knowing that, hey, every agent under the sun in my market is probably reaching out to them too? What do you think made it a little bit different for you, or what did you say? What was your approach?
So really, I just started out just saying that I wanted to get on their radar. That I knew that there was changes in the new construction space. I knew there was going to be consistent changing because they typically do. Some builders will, grab onto their agent and they become buddies, and then they'll stay with that agent for a long time. But the builders that actually run a business, like a true business, like the high production builders, they're a business, and if they don't care who you are, you could be best friends if you're not pushing out the product to where they can be successful in their business. Then they'll just replace you, with somebody else, and they'll give them a shot, and then they'll replace that person. You can see that when you go look at some neighborhoods, and you'll see, maybe every year or every other year they have a different agent on the sign. But I just wanted to get on the radar. So I just said, hey, I want to get on your radar. I know there's always movement in this space. If there's an opportunity to come in and interview, I would love to have that opportunity with you. And it was just kind of really generic, and there wasn't anything special, or there was never any magic sauce to it. But it was just, I guess the magic sauce is the consistency. I never wanted to stop asking, because eventually I knew somebody was going to say, yeah, come in and interview. And that's exactly what happened. And I've interviewed for several since, and, sometimes you win them and sometimes you don't. And there's all kinds of reasons why. I mean, you can even be the best, but there's just something they saw that they liked better. But I still do that today. Even though that, I've built up a good new construction business, you'll get busy, you'll have multiple neighborhoods, then you get down to one, and then you have a couple. You might have 10 builders you're working with at one time, or 2 builders you're working with at one time. So it's always like this. So I constantly, even today, am always reaching out and trying to develop the next relationship and the next opportunity.
Well, I think that's an important lesson too, because, the ones that win are the ones that don't stop doing what got them here. And a lot of people get to the point where they get momentum, then they take their foot off the gas because they think they've got it made. And then they lose it all because it can all go away, and you stop doing the things that got you there because you either get an ego and think you're too good for it now, or you think that you don't have to. And I think it's important to continue to do that like you're doing right now.
Yeah. I enjoy it. A lot of people don't like new construction because it's a pain in the butt. It's difficult. It's a constant challenge. I love the challenge. You don't, most of the time you don't get paid as much on them, but because of the sales and the high price points, I mean, it makes up for itself. But yeah, I love the challenge. It's kind of in my wheelhouse or become my wheelhouse.
No, I think that's great. And as we kind of bring this full circle, this year, obviously the market is shifting again. And now we're seeing another kind of shift that's, probably going to be a very interesting year for a lot of people, whether it be, I think when things like this happen in the market, it's a polar opposite approach. There's either people that thrive and take massive amounts of market share, or there's people that, are struggling to survive and they aren't in the business at the end of the year. So for somebody that's maybe a new agent getting into the real estate industry this year, what would your best advice be to build that momentum similar to what you did in the beginning with no money?
Yeah, I would say consistency. Just be consistent at everything that you're doing. One of the things I tell agents that come onto my team that might be new agents, or even the veteran agents that come on, is don't feel like you have to have all your systems perfect before you get started. I see it all the time where, it's like they're struggling to get going and get any momentum whatsoever in sales. It's because they're spending all their time trying to make perfect systems, and they're never going to be perfect. They're always going to be changing. So I would say, don't wait to get started, just get started. Your systems can be built as you go. Plus you don't know what you don't know. So if you're new, then, you have to get going to kind of figure out what you need to do or how your systems need to be put together. But I think that probably the most important thing, and I think where most people get it wrong, is just being consistent. That's probably the most important thing you could do.
Yeah, I see it all the time. And again, perfectionism is the quickest way to go broke in my mind, because again, there's so many people, even with me in video, I don't want to put a video until it's perfect. Well, the video you put out that you think is perfect today, and a year from now, you're going to laugh at it. It's the same thing with your follow-up. You could have the perfect follow-up strategy, and a year after 1,000 repetitions and seeing what actually engages and what actually resonates with people, and you're going to realize, wow, I can't believe I even sent that. And it has to come with the repetitions. And I think, again, so many people are looking for that magic silver bullet from day one, which doesn't even exist, to the point where they're hindering themselves from actually taking action. So I think it's really cool, as we wrap it up here, man, that, you know, people now have an opportunity to partner with you and get your help and get your support with learning how to follow up, learning the approach with new construction and builders. So the final question we always like to ask people is, you know, after you've built a successful team and a successful business at a traditional brokerage, what made you look towards, you know, EXP in our group specifically, and what can people expect when partnering with both you and I?
So I started looking at EXP. I actually looked at them a few years ago, but didn't put a whole lot of effort into it, just because it was new and there wasn't a lot of information about them back then here in our market. But when I decided I was going to make a move this year, at first, you know, I kind of had a list of different brokerages that I was interested in, and EXP was not on that list. But it's like, you know what, since I'm looking at all these different brokers, I need to make sure I'm looking at all of them. So I pulled the EXP into my system to see how I was going to look at them, how I was going to go out and do all the research. And I spent quite a bit of time doing research, because I'm pretty intentional about anything that I do. And man, the more I looked into it, it's like, what is this company? Like, this is crazy. This surely this can't be real. And I did my due diligence. And once I had all the information that I needed, I was like, man, I should have done this years ago. I wish I could go back in time and do this over again. I probably would have changed like the way I did my business back then, because I think this is going to change my business going forward. But what I loved about it was, I mean, it's still straight sales. So if you just want to sell houses, then you can do that. You don't have to do anything else. But I loved being able to invest into the EXP stock. And I loved the idea of the revenue share, because it gives you leverage. And it's not like I wanted to come into this business and start recruiting or sponsoring agents and just let them come in and say, okay, have fun. I was going to treat it kind of like I do with my team. Bring the agents in, give them the guidance, give them the support, give them a path to success, because we want them to succeed. Teach them the right way, because it's better for our industry as a whole. We're not bringing in all of this garbage that are out there making mistakes and cutting corners and really taking the interest of the client out of the way. So I'm really excited to work with revenue share in this business and sponsor some great agents, and because it's better for our industry as a whole.
100%. And I don't even think people quite understand, because to kind of, you know, echo what you're saying, the only way that people outside of your market could ever have an opportunity to partner with an incredible leader and role model and team leader like you is if you went and got your license in a new market and set up shop and then allowed people to partner with you. Like, it's not scalable. So there can't be somebody from, you know, New York or from Chicago or from, you know, Austin, Texas, partner with you in the traditional sense, because of the fact that you have to be partners with people that have a license in that area. But EXP rips off those geographic restrictions to the point where now people in any market, in any country, can get your guidance, your support, that blueprint to success as a new agent. And you don't have to go out and be specifically licensed in their market. And they have the support from the brokers in their market, no matter what. So I think it's really cool, because it's a blessing to be able to allow people to get the free support from somebody like you that otherwise they would be struggling, because, you know, let's be real, in most brokerages in the traditional sense, the broker doesn't have time. The team leaders take 50%, and so therefore most agents are saying, well, I guess it's just not cut out for me.
Yeah. the training part of it too, because if you can get that guidance, kind of like the stuff that you guys do, the Wolfpack, and the social media training, and just all of the training, just I mean, that's a great program because you don't just talk about social media, you talk about a lot of different things. But you go into a traditional brokerage, and sure, they might have training. It's totally different today than it was back when I got started, and it hasn't even been that long. But when I got started, you had to pay a tremendous amount of money to get real training on what to do, which at the time I didn't have any money, couldn't do it. Now the training's there and it's offered for the agents. You know, at some point you kind of pay for it, but it's all the same. There's no real change to it. So they might follow a specific type of training model, and that's it. You don't really hear different perspectives. So that's another great thing about this business, is that this business model here at EXP is that you're going to hear a lot of different perspectives on how to do this business and how to grow, because what resonates with one person might not with the other person. So I think having all of those different perspectives is good. It's going to help people overall be able to hit their success levels, because they hear different ways to do it.
Definitely. Well, guys, again, I'm super excited. And again, Danny, thank you so much for pouring into everybody. I
Yeah.
think this is, one of the things that a lot of people need to hear. Sometimes they might not want to hear the fact that, one of the ways to thrive is, and probably one of the primary ways to thrive as the new agent with no money, is just to be relentlessly consistent with the obvious. You already know you need to do these things, but a lot of people aren't doing it because it's just not fun. It's not sexy. It's not, what everybody makes it seem to be on social media, but that's how you actually build a real foundation in this business. So I'm really grateful that you shared that with everybody today. And I'm super excited that people now get to have your direct support in order to help them build business and, be able to get your mentorship. So, guys, as always, I'll be linking all of Danny's content as well as his contact information below if you want to talk more about partnering with both of us to get your help, or get our help this year in order to build a thriving real estate business. So thanks so much for tuning in. As always, again, thank you, Danny, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care, guys. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.